Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and mute us and make sure those online, including Britt, can hear us okay. How's that audio, Britt?
It's good. I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sorry, not feeling good, man. You all right?
Yeah, just got what the kiddos had, so I think I'm past it, but just too close to risk polluting all y'all with it. So
Yeah, thanks for taking care of us.
Hi, Jasmine. Stand 11, and we're regretting not doing it today. It's like, I'm so.
No, as soon as I possibly can, I do. Free the feet.
I need a bigger computer.
About that size.
To cover the owl, is that what you're saying? That's why I don't like to log on, is because I don't need to see myself.
Jen, we've got Britt and Spencer, I guess, are both not feeling well today. Britt's online so far. So I think we'll go ahead and get the meeting started, and hopefully Spencer will be able to join us. I hear dings coming on, so one of them might be him. Let us know if anybody sees him join.
Yeah, looks like he's on probably roll call anyway. Good.
Oh, there we go. Cool. Do you want to hit the button, or you already did?
Good to go.
We're good to go. Okay, we're here. It's March 3rd, 4:01. We're getting going. Let's do a little roll call. If maybe I'll start online with Brett and Spencer, if you guys are okay.
yeah, Brent Hornsby.
Spencer Wade.
Okay. Got Jen. Here you are, Jerry, Josh here. All right, we got all five. Sorry you guys aren't feeling well today, Brett and Spencer, but thanks for trooping on through. We will try to be expedient, but we do have a few important things to discuss today, so appreciate you joining us. Before we get going, we'll open up some public comment. If anybody wants to make a public comment, I posted online in the chat, but if you're online and you want to make a comment, go ahead and either put your name in the chat or raise your hand. And I don't see anybody in the chat or raised hands. Anybody in the audience? Folks are on the agenda? Okay. All right. Well, if someone comes in super last minute, we can figure it out, but we'll move on to talk about the minutes. We have two sets of minutes to take a look at, one from February 17th, our town council meeting, and the other from the joint meeting we had with P and Z. Anybody have any changes they would like to suggest to those minutes? I didn't see anything notable that needed to be tweaked. Assuming, Malia, you've looked over them too as P and town way. All right, hearing no changes, let's go ahead and vote to approve those two sets of minutes, one from the 17th and one from the 19th. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, those pass, those minutes are approved. We'll move on to our unfinished business. In your packet, council members, you should have seen the draft ordinance on speed limits. Big appreciation to Erin for putting together that draft. She took a look at some other examples around from the state. I felt like she really pulled in some good language on those. We've talked about this in the work session before, but just two things quickly that I'll highlight. One that we did not talk about, but we talked about in the town having unless otherwise posted, the speed limit would be 20 miles an hour. The obvious place to otherwise post is the Bluff Bench Road or the Bluff Bypass Road that cuts from 191 over to 162. And I talked with Michael about this, and he let me know that it is signed currently at 50 miles an hour, where that's what the county had it at. There's also some like lower speeds on the curves. Do you remember what it is at 40?
Yeah, 40.
40 on the curves. I went and drove it, and I like 50 is a little bit fast, but like if you slow down for the curves like they suggest at 40, I thought it's reasonable. And rather than changing it and putting up new signs, it seems reasonable to me to just keep it at 50. So that's what we have it drafted at, is just keeping that speed limit at 50. Certainly the prerogative of the council to change that if someone feels strongly that should be something different, but that's what we put in the draft.
It's only one other location that I think consider changing it, lowering it is in front of the school, or like on 3rd West. Where it's going by the school, maybe we could make that a 15-mile-an-hour zone just because the kids are.
Set the dirt road.
So 5th West.
3rd West.
Or 3rd West from 191 going up some distance past the school.
Well.
To Willow?
Yeah, 191.
That seems like that would make sense to me.
191 to
To
Willow.
Willow Street.
Willow Street.
Why not just all of them? Just post 15 at the start, because that's the one that goes up to the gate. At the sanctuary, right? To just have the whole dirt road.
I can't see any reason to disagree with you, Gary. Like,
Yeah,
people
No, I
don't
mean,
want-
yep, it's recreating, so it seems to make sense to keep it low because people could be up there with their dogs, kids and stuff. So
yeah, people can be riding their bikes, going up to the trails. Okay, so the amendment would be to add,
Well, if you put 15 at, 191 to Willow, then after that, it becomes Cottonwood, Washington Avenue. Then it goes to 20.
well, I think what Gary was proposing was that we just made 3rd West all 15 miles an hour, all the way up.
All the way up to the fence.
yeah. Which I think, given the bikes and the dirt in the road and all that, that seems totally reasonable. So, Aaron, I think I've got the text of this pulled up. Do you have it pulled up? Yeah, oh, you go, you're adding C already. She's always so far ahead of us.
is there any reason for it to be lower on Calf Canyon Road?
I don't think so.
This is an ear-piercing show.
Then I can't kick dust up to your house.
I'm just, well, and that's kind of why I'm hesitant about doing all of 3rd West too, is are we gonna get nitpicking about this? People just want slower speeds in front of their house, so they're gonna request a lower speed. I just thought in front of the school there made sense, because.
There's a strong rationale there.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, like, we keep it at 20 unless there's a super strong rationale to go to 15. What do you think about that, Gary?
I get that people are gonna say, oh, I want it this way too. I think the less we change, the better for those people to not do it. Do we even need to put it in here where we've got it up above where it says all the streets are 20 miles an hour unless otherwise posted?
Yeah.
So we wouldn't even
We
need
could
it in
just
there.
post it as
We're
a
gonna do it
post.
15.
So in Utah, the typical school zone maximum speed limit is 20 miles per hour.
No,
Um,
okay,
but that doesn't prevent you from lowering it further, given that you have jurisdiction for your Class C road.
And it's technically not a school zone, though it's by a school.
Right,
A school zone is where they cross,
Cross.
yeah,
and there has to be a start and there has to be a finish.
yeah. It wouldn't be a school zone, it would just
No.
be a lower speed limit for the purpose of the school. I guess I can go either way, just leave it at 20 or maybe 15, so.
yeah.
Yeah, same.
If you feel strong about making it 15, like you're the mom of the group, and I'll go with that.
With no children in public school any longer, so.
In the thing.
So I guess out of simplicity, I'd maybe just say, let's
Yeah,
leave it
yeah,
at 20.
yeah.
And so your
Okay
hard
with
work,
that.
Aaron, of adding C, maybe.
That's good practice.
Good practice.
Got it, perfect.
Sometimes you gotta talk it through to
Well,
get
no,
there.
exactly, and that's why we're here, right, is to talk things through.
Okay. Did anybody else see anything else in the ordinance that they felt needed tweaked? Michael?
If you go back up there, I think it says 50 miles an hour.
Oh,
50, that's on the Bluff Bench Road.
Okay. Thank you.
That's just up there. All right, so hearing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote, which does need to be a roll call vote because it's an ordinance. Any further discussion before we do so? Hearing none, Gary?
yes.
Joshua votes yes. Jen?
Yes,
Spencer?
Yes.
And Britt?
Yes.
All right, we have passed the speed limit ordinance and we'll look forward to getting some signs up soon. Great. Our next action item is to set a public hearing date for the budget amendment that we've been talking about. We're gonna talk details of that, but there's a whole process we have to go through to set that and notice it and all that. Remind me the date that we were thinking of setting that.
So I think it would be beneficial, so we need to provide at least 10 days of notice after it goes into like the San Juan record and everything, and we need 10 days for the public to be able to view it. So if you all evaluate it during next week's work session on March 10th, we would need at least 10 days before we can hold the public hearing, which would either require a special meeting, or given that we've kind of worked through some of the roads budgetary constraints, we're recommending potentially just holding a public hearing on your regular meeting date of April 7th.
That's right. So it'd be the first council meeting in April. So we'd have plenty of time to work through that amendment, notice it, and then vote on it, have a hearing just, I guess, prior to the start of the regular meeting.
I would probably notice it for 4 o'clock.
Just at the regular
Yeah,
time.
or yeah, I guess we've done 3:30 or 4.
Maybe just 4.
Four.
There's probably not gonna be a huge amount of people commenting that takes too much time.
Yeah.
All right, if you guys are good with that.
Yep.
Then let's set that public hearing for April 7th. We don't need a vote on setting a date, do we?
We do not, it's more notice to the public, and then all the official notices will go out. I'll get all of those drafted and posted and published in the San Juan record. So, and then we're gonna do 4 o'clock.
Good deal. All right, moving forward with the amended budget. All right, on to some new business. We've got former councilman Jim Sayers here with us tonight to talk about request for a boundary line adjustment on his property. Jim, would you mind just overviewing what you're asking for briefly? And then I'm sure we'll have a little discussion and a few questions for you.
Not at all, thank you. I'm in the process, hopefully, of purchasing a half an acre from the Podmores, my neighbors to the west. I already own a triangular piece of property that I purchased back in the 90s from the previous owners. 1/10 of an acre. It's, just the corner of the property that is closest to the back door of my old house. And what I'm asking is to use that, to move that hypotenuse, that like triangle there, that 1/10 of an acre, swing it out and all the way and include that 1/2 acre of Podmores. It seems to be the simplest solution to make that a whole, actually more than 1/2 an acre. But it changes the 1/10 of an acre that I owned, which is basically useless. I bought it in order because the property that was owned before it came within like 40 feet of my back door. And I just purchased it from Mark Richmond. We surveyed it ourselves and just cut it off and did that. So the easiest way for me to purchase this property and move forward is to simply swing that hypotenuse out and make it go north-south. And just pull that piece of property off as a little more than 1/2 an acre. And it is not adjoining, it is next to it is adjoining my current property, but it's not an extension of the property. It's a separate piece of property in and of itself. So it seems to fit within the guidelines for a boundary adjustment. And that's what I'm here to hear about from you folks, but that it seems to work. It works for me, and if it works within the ordinance, if 2 ordinances apply here. One is the boundary adjustment ordinance. The other ordinance is the alleys ordinance, which provides for access to the new property. It runs east-west. It is the peripheral road along the south end of Cottonwood Addition. It's an easement, and it runs between 4th and 5th west. And according to the alleyway ordinance, I don't know the number of that ordinance here, but there is language in there that these alleyways are to be preserved for access, essentially. So that's the access to the property. I have no intention of selling the property right now. I have no intention to build building on it. Is simply something that I can own, so that my current boundary behind my house that I live in right now is not set back 15. The buildings. There is one building that is not set back 15 feet. It was built long before that ordinance went into effect. Those ordinances went into effect. So this gives me more space out to the west, and that's it. If there are any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
Maybe I'll first say, Aaron, you've looked at this from a staff perspective, is there any major issues you would raise for the council's particular consideration? And then we'll open up to some discussion and questions from the council.
Yeah, so I had put together a short staff report, seeing as this is our first boundary line adjustment, lot line adjustment. It's known as a lot line adjustment in our current subdivision code, but it's the same process. That ordinance does call for specific items for the petition. We don't have any like formal paperwork, so what Jim submitted is accurate. There was a note that I had not yet received the signatures, but Jim provided that yesterday morning. So all of the folks who are impacted by this have signed. And then in terms of noticing, because it's just the 2 landowners who are adjacent to these boundary lines, there was no additional noticing, no need for a public hearing or anything like that. So he's in good shape there. As Jim called out, the alley is the direct access to this amendment. And so I do think it would be helpful to have some kind of formal acknowledgement that that is the legal access for this parcel. We've had a lot of issues I'll just say in Bluff, I won't call anyone out. We've had a lot of issues in Bluff where parcels have been boxed in. We have access issues that prohibit development on the land. And so as long as there's, I think, some kind of formal acknowledgement that you have the legal access via the alley, this should be, this shouldn't be a problem. I would also say that this is beneficial in terms of creating a parcel that is of standard size for a residential area. And I was just like taking my stuff up here because I was going to double check that it is indeed a residential parcel that we're dealing with, because I was worried I hadn't done that research. So what we're looking at here, this little triangle is what Jim is trying to get a boundary line adjustment to get this off. So this actually is a non-conforming parcel in its current state. So all of this color yellow is residential, and a half acre is the minimum size. So this is actually beneficial as long as this white alley here. So you can see here, there was a vacation to this portion of the alley. I think alleys need to be addressed in general. We need to address access in general, but this alley here is what we're talking about that would access this parcel. And that was one thing that Jim and I had really gone through with our legal counsel to make sure that we weren't creating another headache on the west side of town. So, I don't know, if there could be some kind of agreement that the property owners and the town could sign that essentially would, acknowledge, hey, this is the access point. It would run with the land. It would run with what would be recorded at the county recorder's office. The only other thing for a petition like this is you all, if you grant the approval, you sign the documents, and then the petitioner is the one who reports everything with the county. Do you want me to bring up any of the other plat or the surveys, or take a look at anything else on Jim's petition?
I took a look at it. I guess I would open up for questions from the council or discussion of questions or concerns.
So none of the adjustment takes away from the alleyway.
Correct.
So it's just there. So I went down there and looked. And the alleyway's blocked. It's got a fence across it.
Yeah, I put those gates up. They actually, they're easy to move. We've had horses go through, quite a bit on the land, and I put those up this spring. The horses were just getting out of control. They come through, on that map up there, on the lower, to the left and lower part is, Drew's land.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole southwest dotted line is open to the farm, and I don't think they're feral horses, but they're loose horses. They're three,
they're
five
feral.
of them. And they wander in, and then they come along the alley, and they like to use my property, to do what horses like to do. And so I put that up, and it's just leaning there, and I set it up. I wired it to the fence on both sides, and it's easy to open. Lois walks her dogs through there. There's actually an aperture where pedestrians can go through. Pedestrians often kind of go along that alley, and that doesn't bother us. They're usually pretty polite, and they like to walk their dogs, and that's not a problem for me. But does that answer your question about that?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that, the horses,
You know about horses.
they've been to my house. And
They've been everywhere. You can see their calling cards everywhere.
And the other end you said was vacated, Aaron? Or already that piece of the alley?
So the section, so what we're looking at here, so right now the Class C road, on Fifth runs down to here. This is the Podmore
Right.
residence. Sayers is here, Gillum is here, and Cooper is here. So this section, we can see was formerly vacated. And that would have been prior to our zoning, because it is recorded. Now, we've had another alley vacation, over here since then, so we need to be updating our maps. But what I see is that we've had, a few alley vacations here. My guess is there were alley vacations that occurred here, because all of these used to be alleys. But because this section that my cursor's on right now just goes straight down, the town does not have a public alley, public access to any of these lands. In the determining the subdivision or minor subdivision of the Cooper property, it was determined that access was obtainable through Fifth West. So his access is right here. And then, these parcels back here are accessible. And then this parcel, my guess is that the reason that they vacated it was this parcel here did not have any other access. So, or they didn't want to use this access, if you know, kind of the ground over there. They probably were trying to get access here because something was vacated here. So that's why I really want you all to take a very close look at access. Because we do not want to be creating those same issues. So something as simple as a barrier or a fence, I do think could create an issue for us in the future. So that is why my recommendation would be some kind of legal formal acknowledgement to run with this recording.
Yeah, I'm in favor, as we discussed, and I'm in favor of that. I just think there's enough issues around alleys. It's new enough of the town owning the alleys and controlling them, that having some signatures in writing. I know you guys are good neighbors and know each other well, but who knows if the property gets sold, that there's some sort of written, like, this is the intent of all the parties involved, that this alley will remain open and is the access for that property. And that way there's just no confusion about that going forward. And to me, with that's my only main concern, is just making sure everybody knows about that.
Well, it would take action on my part or someone's part to get it abandoned, and it would have to go through the town to do that. And so I feel that it's, there are some guarantees already. Yeah, I think this is a valid concern. The alley, I checked with the county, Aaron asked for proof that it wasn't vacated, and there's, absence of proof is proof of absence, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does not have a tax number, it is not attached to anyone's name, it's everywhere in the county, that particular alley between Fourth and Fifth is open, and it's an easement. And we do have an easement ordinance, alley ordinance in town that sort of safeguards this stuff, that there has to be a specific process in that ordinance to vacate these alleys. I can come up with some language in the bill of sale to guarantee that, specify that's the access.
They're just going a little above and,
Yeah.
above and beyond is just safe for us at this point.
Well, the property certainly isn't worth as much to me if it doesn't have access. If I didn't have the alley, I own the property north and south of the alley, and I would put in a myself. Yes, that's the value of the
Because from what I understand, according to the Cottonwood Wash or Cottonwood edition, is that 20 foot is a buffer zone around Cottonwood Wash. So it's owned by Bluff.
edition, yeah,
So it's owned by Bluff, so it wouldn't be taxed. Because
right,
we're tax exempt, so there would be nothing showing taxes paid on it.
right,
But it's owned by Bluff.
correct,
Should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically, they should be blocked off. I did an inventory when I was on the council. There are about probably half of them that are either blocked off by heavy vegetation or by fencing or by buildings in Cottonwood edition.
Yeah.
They're, the ones that really need to be preserved, obviously, are the ones that have utilities running through them, and there are a number of those. but most of them do not have utilities. And, nobody seems to care very much. They don't even care enough to get them abandoned, to apply for them to be abandoned, but there they are. And, in the case of this one, that rather than a fence, it's actually a gate. It's a big couple of steel panels and corral panels, and you can just move them. So it's a gate that's open and not even locked.
I guess I don't understand the abandoned part. Cause I don't see that the town's abandoned
Yeah, I
that.
don't abandon.
And,
No, it has not been.
You know,
It's not. Yeah, technically, the word abandoned means that the town would abandon it to some private owner.
Yeah, so there's an alley vacation process. We went through one of those early last year. As half of it had already been vacated by the county, and they had pretty much incompletely done it, and so we had gone through that process. But what Mr. Sayers is referring to is we do have at least a resolution, if not a resolution ordinance, indicating that it's in the town's best interest to not turn over any other of those public access ways and alleys, and kind of retained the right to them for these exact issues that we do have parcels that have easement and access issues.
All right, so we put this on today for discussion. We're not gonna vote on it today. We wanted to raise it so you all have a chance to think about it for a minute. But I think our intention will be to move forward with this pursuant to coming together with some sort of signatures to the effect of everybody knowing that the alley is the easement. And then I can put this on, I can let you know when, Jim, but I can put this on a future council meeting to go for approval. And we'll have you work with Aaron on just that documentation on the alleys, if that's okay. Just make sure and ask Britt and Spencer, they don't have anything else to add.
No, I don't. Thanks for all the information, Jim, and thanks for being so thorough, Aaron, since this is our first one, especially.
I have one other question. Anything, quite honestly, that has anything bordering Cottonwood Estates right now sends my head spinning. Is this reallocation going to set precedents for any of the other issues that are going on, in particular with 6th West over there? I just want to make sure we're not digging ourselves into a hole that might affect another parcel.
No, so the boundary line adjustment process, as laid out in the subdivision ordinance, is very specific as to what it's doing. Certainly anyone can come and request this. There are some typical reasons as to someone might request this, including correcting survey discrepancies, accommodating existing improvements, or to improve that lot configuration, which, as noted, this one does assist Mr. Sayers in getting a minimum of a half acre. But this is not going to set a precedent for the alleys, for any of the other easement access. The easement access portion, and I probably should stop using the word easement as it is an alley, but the whole access issue is the only reason we're talking about it is because it's one of the considerations here. This will not set a precedent for how you all want to deal with alleys in the future. It'll be a separate evaluation and process.
I mean, if anything, to me, we are reiterating our town policy that the town wants to maintain those alleys. And they will be there to access. So in my view, it's continuing the precedent of the town council, previous town council policies they have set and not making.
I agree with that. I just wonder if, I hope that at some point in time in the not too distant future, we correct a lot of the discrepancies that, or come up with a solution for a lot of the discrepancies that happen with the Cottonwood addition all the time. So just wondering how that.
I think we should.
If it borders that, I just,
Yeah, because that did bring up that I think the Conwood addition needs to be addressed.
Exactly, exactly.
It's something written up to say this is the way it is.
Yeah.
Because it's plotted on the land instead of, that's another matter.
Yeah, I think so. So we can address Jim's concern now and then fight that elephant. as soon as we can get to it. Okay, all right, I think we got our marching orders on that. Jim, thanks for coming in. You're welcome to take off or stick around for all the other scintillating action items.
Fun sitting over there, right?
Yeah, I'm having flashbacks.
All right, the next item on our discussion is to talk a little bit about creating a secondary water working group. I'm gonna give a little bit of background, just because there's been a couple of meetings that Gary and I have attended and fill some folks in, and then we've invited Patrick McDermott to join us today, and he's thankfully here to talk a little bit about this. But as you recall, we kind of decided that we were gonna have protecting our water and water rights and secondary water as a priority for the council for at least this year. Probably take us longer than that, but obviously you get started on this year. And so in moving that forward, we started talking to some residents that have an interest, like Patrick, in secondary water, and talking about what might come next. And the way I'm thinking about it is there are kind of three things that we can do to start advancing this priority. One of them is pulling together a little bit of a working group that Patrick has agreed to kind of head up. It'd be a small group of folks that are passionate about it. We'll probably have someone from Bluff Waterworks on that, maybe someone from Utah State University Extension, but you know, some expertise around water to help advance the issue forward. So this would be a working group. It wouldn't be a formal, you know, public notice sort of group, but a working group to advise the town. They wouldn't have any authority to make decisions on behalf of the town, but they give us some ideas going forward. The second idea would be for us to put forward some funds to support that group in coming up with some modern feasibility of how to develop secondary water, knowing that there have been, I've heard at least 3 different kind of feasibilities around secondary water done over the years. In fact, we dug up one today. This one was from November 26, 2006. Patrick's, we might look through this one. But you know, there's multiple efforts on this, but what could we do in a modern day and age to get started with secondary water? So some funding on that. So Aaron and I are putting forward in the budget amendment some funds for that, which we'll talk about in a future meeting. And then the third is to talk to the state about the current status of our water right. So not a secondary water right, but it's our water right off of the San Juan River, and find out the status of that and what it would take to activate and use that water right. So those are kind of the 3 steps looking forward. We're looking to figure out who the person at the state we need to talk to is. So we've got that in process. We've got the budget amendment process going where we can put some money aside, and then there's this working group. So we asked Patrick to come tonight to talk a little bit about his ideas for kind of a phased approach to developing secondary water, and to just start a little discussion about putting together this working group that Patrick would help us lead on. We would definitely want there to be a council member to serve, you know, with this working group. And I think we've been kind of thinking that maybe Gary would be willing to do that. Kind of serve as the council liaison in that working group. So with that introduction, maybe Patrick, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about your thoughts around secondary water, and why you think it's important for the town, and where we maybe need to go next.
Well, we had a committee going, Jen and Britt, myself, and a couple other people were on it, for most of the second half of last year. And one of the things we came up with is we felt like it would be, beneficial to secure those water rights, to develop new services for secondary water, for a number of reasons. One of the things since we finished meeting last year, I've been spending some time just kind of thinking about how to get things going with secondary water. And I'm thinking that we could have a real low point of entry for some initial proof of concept and feasibility type stuff. And I'm talking real low barrier for entry, like water trucks coming around and putting water in tanks that use low pressure drip irrigation systems And, you know, we would basically, drill holes and put trees in there and get trees growing, basically. That we would also, ask for participation from local property owners who were interested in this and realizing that it was kind of an experimental thing, working with low pressure systems. But there's also a lot of potential upsides for it too, because while the culinary water is great for drinking, it's not necessarily great for plants. It's got a lot of minerals in it, and it really does build up after a while. So that's kind of the idea. Start off real low and then just sort of build up as we get traction, as we identify potential funding issues, funding sources. We could build it up into something that was more sustainable, like with pipes in the ground and pulling water out of the river and things like that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. The one other thing that I wanted to mention is part of the incentive that we'd like to consider, or that I've thought about trying to put together, is some sort of a tree nursery in Bluff where we could actually be growing saplings, growing bushes that were small that we could provide to landowners either for super low cost or for free, that we would go around and help actually install the systems, plant the trees, so that it was kind of a partnership to get this going. And I believe that there are a number of organizations that have funding avenues, that have programs that would be aligned with some of these issues, source protection, wildlife, riparian areas. There's a number of programs that I think we could potentially partner with to get it going. So.
Very good. Well, thank you, Patrick. I think, as we've discussed, and even the rural water folks said that, if you reduce the amount you have to use of your culinary water supply, that also serves as a protection for the culinary water source. And obviously, who knows what happens down the road, and actually using our water right out of the river can help protect it. So, and growing trees in the desert is a good thing. So we're excited and grateful that you're willing to kind of help spearhead this. And obviously, you won't be the only one. We'll be working with you step by step. But I just wanted to make sure the council was good with this, starting this group, good with kind of Gary serving as a liaison on it. Obviously, other folks can be involved. We just have to be careful not to have three of us show up at one of these meetings, or else we get a town council meeting going.
Or we just notice it.
Yeah, we notice it, right? Yeah, if we know, but we don't do it accidentally anyway. So that's kind of the thinking of the next steps moving forward. And we'll talk more about the budget in the upcoming meeting. We'll fill you in on the conversations with the state on the water right, and then work with Patrick and Gary to get this going. So any questions about that, Britt or Spencer or anyone else?
No, I'm good.
I think
Thank you.
it's great because we do need to, even if we're not using the water rights, we need to show intent to, at the limited number of rural water stuff that I've been to in the last couple of years. That's so important, even if you're not doing it right now, but showing intent to do it is crucial for protecting those water rights.
Well,
Yeah, I love it.
Go ahead, Spencer.
It sounds like a great idea, and if there's any way I can help, I'd love to help with this as well.
Good deal. Thank you, Spencer. Yeah, I think we have a stack of books showing some intent, and it'd be great to get from intent to actually doing something. So, serving on the fire department with Patrick, I know that he's good at actually doing things. So that's it's good for us that he's willing to help us on this. Okay, in the other realm of doing things, as you all know, we've had a bunch of folks in town that worked hard for many years to get the Bluff River Trail going. And actually got the Bluff River Trail on the ground, designated even through BLM, which was a lot of partnership and work. I think the committee took a little bit of a breather for a little while after all the hard work to get it going. But they're wanting to kind of reactivate that committee. And I think, think about future maintenance of the trail, connections to the trail, what else might be done with trails in the area. And so the committee, represented by Jim Hook, has asked if the town would appoint essentially a liaison of some sort to attend those meetings and be part of that. And I thought that that was a great idea to make sure that we're doing these things together, and it's not, you know, one thing going off on one side, another, the town going another direction, but that we're working together on these. And so what I thought I would ask is if there is a council member that would be interested in kind of being a liaison with that group, it'd be really good to have someone who's willing to attend, you know, meetings from time to time, report back, and be kind of our connection to that group. And not to overstep my boundaries as mayor, but I was kind of thinking, given the other responsibilities other people have thought, that maybe Spencer or Britt, maybe if that would be something you'd be willing to do. Not that I certainly am super passionate about trails, and we probably all are, but Jen's raising her hand here real quick.
Is this not something that would go hand in hand with the active transportation committee, which we already have formed, which Britt is already on?
It certainly goes hand in hand with that. The Bluff River Trail Committee is its own thing. They've created their own group, and it's focused more specifically on that trail versus the larger active transportation committee. I think they're you know, very much peas in a pod, but one smaller than the other. There is gonna be a lot going on with the active transportation committee in the next year. I don't know if you guys heard, but the grant for the design of the trail from Montezuma Creek to Monument Valley came back online. That $12 million is happening.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be designing the trail through Bluff this next year. So there's gonna be quite a bit going on with active transportation committee. But the request was from Jim was specifically relating to the Bluff River Trail and making sure their efforts are coordinated with the town.
I mean, I'm happy to do it. I've worked with that committee quite a bit when I was helping with work, putting in that the upper panel trail there at Sand Island. But you know, I'm happy to do it, Spencer. If you'd like to do it though, feel free, bud.
Yeah, also happy to help with it. So either way works for me.
Why don't we give it to you since I've worked with them before? Does that sound good?
Okay. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Get somebody new in there. So,
Yeah. Sounds great.
Yeah, Spencer, if you're willing to do it, I think that would be great. We do, you know, we have Britt assigned to some other duties as well, including the mayor pro tem and the economic development council and so forth. So if you're willing to serve on that, I think that would be really great.
Yeah. Yep. I'd love
Okay,
to.
I'll let Jim know about that, and then we'll keep you in the loop on the next steps, and I'll also participate as much as I can, just because I walk that trail pretty much every day and I'm passionate about it, but it's good to have another council person kind of leading the charge there. All right, next item on the agenda is our prioritization list for the Community Impact Board. So Gary, another acronym CIB we'll hear, but Community Impact Board. These are, the Community Impact Board oversees funds that are theoretically to support rural communities that are impacted in some way by oil and gas development around the state and mining and other types of development. And so these funds come every year into the Community Impact Board, and then that board makes decisions about allocation of that. Part of that process, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, is that we as a town maintain kind of our priority list for projects that we might apply for funding from the Community Impact Board. It doesn't mean we are going to apply for funds for those purposes, but that we may apply for them. And if we do, what our priority for those is. So in the past, there was a list, a previous list that felt quite a bit out of date to Aaron and I as we were looking at it. And what's the fellow's name from CERTA that reached out to us?
Todd Horn.
Yeah, so Todd Thorne from CERTA reached out to us to come meet with us about our priority list. And so we thought it would make sense for us to update our priority list and make it kind of align with other prior town council priorities that we did. And then have that kind of discussed at least before we meet with Todd. In thinking about potentially applying for some CIB funds this year, or at least certainly likely in future years. So let's see, is this the old one?
Yeah, so this is what they had on file for last year. So priority 1 was a backhoe, priority 2 was a wildland fire truck, priority 3 was the airport project. And again, like, it's not saying that we're doing an application or the year in which we're doing an application. So that airport project is quite large. And then Cooperative Cultural Center was on there as number 4. I will say, so we submit our priority list and then the county goes in and also prioritizes these. So this was pre-county priority. But those were the 4 that were on the list. And so Josh and I were kind of thinking, and Malay and I were thinking that hopefully we can make some updates to this based on your current goals and priorities. Kind of took the liberty to put pen to paper. So if I can share.
How does this relate to the? I mean, in last November or whatever, we had, maybe it was October, I thought we had updated our priority list.
It's possible that we had, I know they have a trimester application period. So it's very possible that you had, but now is a great time since you've got new council members and you've got some new priorities.
Yeah.
So based on some of your conversations in the 2026 goals, we put these as a, oh gosh, I got a lot of things to move some stuff around. So this is what we want feedback on, and this is what we want you all to kind of advise on before we meet with Todd next week. So saying that Cooperative Cultural Center is kind of our first priority, secondary water, repaving the old highway, the airport runway project, and then keeping wildland fire truck on there as well. And then I did kind of make some adjustments to the dollar amounts as well. So for example, the airport repaving project, we need a total cash match of $250,000. So we could request 225 from CIB. We also were chipping in through our capital projects of like 25,000. Same going with the highway project, potentially a request of like $900,000. We're chipping in some from capital projects and some from the regular roads budget. And then you'd see the same here with Cooperative Cultural Center, listing out all of our other funding matches, keeping that CIB request amount at 1.5 million, but just ensuring that they've got a better picture of what we're willing to contribute to these projects as well. It just looks like, it wasn't a complete picture in the previous lists.
And there's actually one more grant that you can put on there. The
electrical.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So part of this honestly is strategy of what the CIB might fund. As much as what, our town priorities are. I think honestly, what we're probably most likely to get funded on this would be secondary water, but we don't really have a plan for exactly how much to spend on secondary water. We're not ready to apply for secondary water yet. And so it seems like given how much we need to raise for the community center and that we, said that was one of our high priorities, that it would make sense for us to maybe give a shot at applying for the community center this year, see how that lands with the board, and then potentially apply for secondary water or one of these other projects in the future. And that, you know, the airport runway project, for example, we would not be applying for this right away. This is a 2030 thing. But if we can find a way to cover our share of the airport thing in 2030, we essentially get $2 million from aviation to then have a runway that's gonna last 30 years. So like it's a little bit looking in the future, kind of telegraphing some of our future needs to the CIB, but then also playing a little bit of like, what do we think we might be able to get funded now? Like it would be silly for us to rank, rank the community center as number 5, but then apply for it, right? If we're gonna apply for it, let's rank it number 1, it's our top priority.
How many can you apply for? Just one?
Just one, and it's unlikely that you would get funded, like, you know, we've had a hard time getting funded in the past, there's political things going on. And very unlikely you would probably get funded 2 years in a row, for example, as well. There's another, you know, we also don't need to apply for the CIB, this amount in the CIB, like, it might be very smart for us not to apply for 1.5 million for the community center, but instead, you know, apply for something different. You could argue either way, up it or, you know, down, like, but there's kind of strategy involved.
Well, the reason that I say that is just in looking at past community requests, City of Blanding is requesting $7 million for their elementary school renovation. So I think that, you know, I think that if we ask for $2 million for our old elementary school renovation, that's not out of line.
No, that was exactly the conversation that led to us throwing the community or cultural center on the list in the first place. So totally agree. And I just think of all those things that we've listed. I mean, I know Michael has plans for the old highway, but the cultural center we have plans for. It's shovel ready. We can get rolling. It can be useful to tons of people in town really quickly. It could even generate a little income. So, I mean, I think that that's a super important one to put first.
Does anybody have any concerns about us using this list that we created in order for those conversations? There's nothing that locks us into them at all, but it's kind of.
I think it looks great.
Yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead, Brett.
No, my only thing is, I mean, and I agree with it being on there. It's just, you know, I'm going to be the guy beating this drum repeatedly. Is, you know, if we're looking at doing secondary water and we're looking at going after like millions of dollars to do things as a group, I really got to keep pushing for the town water department thing. If we're going to be all crisscross like this with ownership of water rights and culinaries being distributed by one, and then the town's distributing another, and we're getting I want that stuff to be. I know it could be a couple of years away to get that answer, but I don't think it's just that we don't have a secondary plan. We do need to wrap all this stuff up before we get millions of dollars in planning and stuff going.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, Brett. And my hope is that by working together on secondary water, it all helps, you know, it helps with that relationship and the trust building to figure out a long plan as well.
Totally agree. And then maybe Jen, you were thinking this as well. The wildland fire truck made me think. You know, we probably should have a conversation about wildland fire and the fire department. You know, Gary Lichtenstein last summer. Jen gave a presentation to me and Jen about some possible employment and money making potential off of wildland fire trucks and things like that. I mean, it's not enough for me to repeat here because I'll mess it all up, but it's just something to consider when we're thinking about that being number 5 is, you know, I don't know, maybe we want to bump it up to 4 in my mind, but we want to have that meeting to talk with Gary about what the plans could be there. But
he presented it to the whole entire board, so I think that we could pretty easily and find meeting minutes from that whole.
Yeah, my thought on the fire truck is just that it's somewhat similar, Britt, to your point about the water, but I think even more so that it's awkward for like the town of Bluff to own a fire truck when San Juan County runs everything else in the fire. Like we kind of have to know what our relationship with the county is going to be going forward. And I'm gonna be, as soon as the legislative session, is over, sitting down with Matt McDonald at the county, and that'll be one of the things I raised to start us, talking about. And so I just feel like it's a little getting ahead of ourselves to like try to get, rank a fire truck high when we gotta kind of figure that out first
Totally.
too. Whether it's 4 or 5, it probably is not super consequential. It's more like telegraphing to the board that like that is an issue coming up for the
Mhm.
future, but it's not our top priority right now.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that was more of what it was, just kind of jogging my memory that it might be worth this new council having a conversation about what that in particular looks like. And my main comment is huge thanks for taking that backhoe off of this. So
You don't want to be the person in charge of maintaining backhoe?
absolutely not.
I think we should get access to a backhoe, maybe some other way.
My question is, where are we gonna store a backhoe? Because we can't even figure out a place to store our solar panels, let alone a backhoe, so.
DCC door.
After a remodel.
It's all right for us to have some levity sometime, guys. Yeah, we were thinking that too, Brett. Okay, thanks for the discussion on that. We'll move forward with getting a meeting scheduled with Todd and talking through the next steps on that. Obviously, before we actually put in an application to the CIB, we'll come back to the council and make sure everybody's on the same page of the strategy and what we're asking for there. All right, in terms of item number 7, we included in your packet the updated February financial report and check register, and just want to give everyone the opportunity to ask any questions of Aaron, or Aaron, if you have anything that you want to highlight for us.
I think probably just the biggest one is, we have had a number of large expenditures in the roads department. We've talked about those regarding the work that Paul has coordinated with Sondrager. So you will see pretty large purchases there, which makes sense because we're seeing the work get done. Other than that, I'll get the financial reports out monthly, and then those check registers will go out as well. What I included in the agenda packet today is from the beginning of the year, just because we're kind of like getting our systems in place. But certainly I want to give you the opportunity, if you have any questions about the finances, to let me know. We are working to propose or have written down more of our policies and procedures. And so having that well documented and well understood is going to be really helpful. So if there are any particular things that you are concerned about, or you want to make sure that we have our eye on, please let me know. But internally, administration is working really hard, not only in the financials, but just like across the board, to document all of our policies and procedures, and those will come to you for review and approval. Please, if you haven't already, do take a look at the February financial report. It will get you prepared for your March work session, which we should have a pretty good discussion about the proposed amended budget for this fiscal year. So if you're seeing anything that looks really wonky or wild, or you want to know why is it in this category, or what's going on with revenues, take a look at that and then compare it to that proposed amended budget. After we go through that in the work session, we'll make sure that's released to the public in preparation for that public hearing, as we discussed.
Aaron, the only question I had, which I thought maybe is good to just ask in public, did we ever figure out why we thought the property taxes were so high?
Yes, I did. So a couple things with property taxes. So the municipalities in the state of Utah work off of a certified tax rate, which essentially means that unless you all choose to increase it, you are set to a certain dollar amount that you will collect, or that you will receive annually. And so we give that certified tax rate to the county, and then they say, okay, property owners, we're going to pull in enough money for the town that's going to equal that amount. So what we're probably seeing is after 8 years of collecting property taxes, each individual property owner is actually paying less to the town than they were 7 years ago, because they have not increased it. So it's right around $33,000. In the budget, we had a month where it was like, oh, there's $42,000 in there. Something was misallocated in revenues. There was an individual who just said, oh, property taxes, it is not, it's been redistributed to the correct spot. However, what you will see is that it is still over 33,000, and that's because of deferred property taxes. So if a property owner has an agreement with the county, they say, okay, I know I still have to pay my taxes, but I can't do it this quarter, this year, whatever. They sign an agreement with the county that they'll pay it at some point. Those still make it into our property taxes revenue. So the property taxes in there are accurate, but they might be pulling in like past years, for example. This is a really important one as we talk about revenues, taxes, the truth in taxation process, which if you wanted to increase property taxes, we would go through. But from a very, very, very high level, we can think of property taxes as there is a set dollar amount of approximately $33,000. I can get you the exact amount. It's right in the mid.
$1,186.
Amazing.
Okay,
So
right there.
that is the amount, the exact amount of money we have told the county to collect for us every single year. And that's what they collect for us.
If we don't change that, then, you know,
They don't
inflation
change it.
eats away at the value of that money every year. right?
So Bluff property owners have actually been paying less and less and less to the town relative to their property values. They might have seen changes though, because there are other taxing entities such as the county or the state who might have increased the taxes, but we Bluff have not changed that amount since incorporation or since those taxes began being collected by the first council.
You may have noticed on the January's, it was higher, it was like 46,000, like it budgeted at 33, and like, well, why did it come in? And there was just a misallocation
Mhm.
on the county side, so that got fixed.
It got fixed, it got back to where it needs to go. So, and always a good catch.
Anything else on financials? One of you talk about the well-being survey?
Oh, yes. So for number 8, we were invited again, by I think it was USU. It's like a department of USU. They conduct an annual well-being survey. Bluff has participated in 2022 and 2024. They collect a variety of, survey points, just basically regarding, you know, how is life in Bluff? They talk about livability, they talk about, you know, roads and priorities and things that people care about. You know, many of the items can inform town government as to how things are going. But it's also, you know, it is USU who's tracking this, and they're trying to track over time. So we said that we would participate again. The survey is now live. It's going to run from March 1st through the 20th. So you hopefully received an invitation to participate if you're on our town email list. I'll also get flyers out. It is anonymous. Unless you fill out your name or put it somewhere in one of your responses, it is an anonymous survey. And while the researchers do, like, they can see your IP address, it's not a collected data point, like they just delete it. So unless you have something there. If you have any questions, I did include contact information for the individual who is helping us get all this done. But we've got about 3 weeks to get results back. And if you're on our email list, expect at least 1 or 2 more reminders to fill that out. It is definitely a helpful survey, and I think it'll become more and more valuable to not only the municipality, but, you know, to the general region and to Utah as more years are collected. So any questions? I'll also put it on our website. It's not up there now. I'll put it on the page so folks can easily get to the link.
How long does it take to complete?
Oh, probably about 10 to 15 minutes. If you're feeling quite loquacious, I could definitely see someone taking more time than that, but probably about 10 to 15 minutes.
Well worth the time to put in, if folks are willing to.
We've also always had really fantastic participation, and that's why they continue to invite us to participate. I think the first year we had like 90 responses, which is fantastic. So if you're over the age of 18, you don't even have to live in Bluff. If you're a frequent flyer to Bluff, please fill out the survey.
Malia, how about a reminder about our fuel reduction on
No,
the weekend of
I-
March 27th?
Yes, March 27th and 28th, please participate, and more so, please volunteer. So we have the fire mitigation weekend at the CCC. If you have brush piles that you need to get rid of, if you have pieces of wood to get rid of that are like to go in stoves and things, we'll also collect them. And then also any leaves, please make sure they are bagged. We are running the truck pickup again, so if you have a truck and are willing to donate your time as well as your services and your truck to drive around and pick up, I'm also collecting names for that, so lots of things to tell me about. If you want to drive a truck and pick things up, if you want to volunteer at the CCC, or if you would like us to pick things up at your home. Also, a huge thanks to Bluff Volunteer Fire Department for doing the fires and doing them safely, as well as Bears Ears Partnership for letting us use a lot of their tools.
Don't forget to say that if they want it picked up, they need to have it on the curb. You're not dragging all the way across people's property.
Yes, what Jen said. Please have it in your right of way. Or out.
Good deal. Council members, any other items? No?
I have another, I got contacted by Craig and Barry Simpson. They're just wondering, back in December, the board approved to accept the Copper Cliffs Road. They're just wondering where we're at in the process.
It's being handled administratively. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will bring it to you all when it's ready to be voted on.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah, we gotta make sure that we actually get ownership of it and everything, so.
Perfect.
working on it.
They were questioning if they needed to attend a meeting. I told them certainly not this meeting, but I would let them know if they were needed in future.
I will make sure I have all the correct contact information. But we can help, happy to handle it.
Definitely something we wanna get on top of for our roads manifest and all of that
Mhm.
issues, so.
We've heard a lot about it today, so we're on
Oh,
it.
today, okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
I do have an
Another, okay.
so the meeting was canceled yesterday, for the training for service, so.
Yeah.
No one was carpooling to that, so y'all know. However, we have been invited to participate. I'll send out an email to all elected and appointed officials. But you all have been invited to participate in a training hosted by the Utah League of Cities and Towns, specifically Cameron Deal, who is their board president.
Executive director.
He's the big guy. So that'll be a powers and duties training, some land use, some legislative updates, and then Q&A. That'll take place on Monday, April 13th at approximately 5 o'clock. More details to come, but I would highly encourage if you can pencil that in. I think it'll be a very worthwhile event. It will be taking place in Monticello at the Hideout per Monticello City, and dinner will be provided by the league. So as we get closer, we can figure out carpooling and everything, but you all as elected officials, staff, as well as planning and zoning members, it would be really great to have everyone's attendance. And just a great way to interface with the Utah League of Cities and Towns. It's wonderful when they make an effort to come, I don't want to say the whole way down to San Juan County, but it is helpful. There might also be some Brand County participation in that event, so.
Yeah, and planning and so just a good way for us to be part of the league and get some professional development and get some face time with the leadership of the league, so.
You said
Yeah,
7
you-
o'clock?
5 o'clock, 5 o'clock. It'll probably be, if I had to guess, like a couple hours since they're doing dinner, powers and duties, legislative updates. Like it's probably gonna be a pretty big night, so. Okay,
Details to come, but if you can pencil it in, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time tonight. We will adjourn and we'll see you next Tuesday.
all right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Council members.
All right, thank
online.
you.
Feel better, sir and Britt.